It's 3 o'clock. And I'd like to call the meeting to order. If you'll please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Could we call the roll, please?
Schmuckel?
Here.
Gustinelli?
Here.
Duel?
Here.
I'm sorry, McCumber? Here. Where am I? McManus? Here. Corn?
Here. All present and accounted for. First item on our agenda is public comment. If there's any member of the public who would care to address the board, we may have to ask you to give up your seat for a moment
Oh, I can do that.
Sorry.
for public comment.
Oh, the speaker.
Oh, no. I just wanted to say thank you, Molly, for adjusting the mics, because it's really important. Sometimes those mics are really good, and sometimes it's very difficult to hear.
Can you hear me now?
I could hear you good, sure. So, thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else for public comment? All right. We will come back to the board for approval of the agenda.
Make a motion, we approve the agenda.
Support.
We have a motion and support to approve the agenda as presented. Any questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We have an agenda. We will start with the interview of candidates for Township Manager. Our first candidate is Jeff Sorensen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff, can you explain why you feel you are the ideal candidate for this position?
I feel that my people skills, my experience with township government, being a supervisor from 2000 to current, my skills with working with people in other units of government, from cities, villages, townships, working together with them, bringing people together to for one common goal, working with not only other units but with my clerk, my treasurer, my trustees, building a team, working with my staff, and having a well-oiled machine to work with. My leadership skills are, I would say, exemplary. I would come to an individual, I would say, you know, what are your roadblocks in doing your job? What can I do to remove roadblocks in doing your job? How can I help you do your job better? You know, what is stopping you from completing your tasks? That's what I look at. And I really feel that I'm excited to take a township that has been the way I have been, the way you have been, and taking it to the next level to a management position. It's new for me, it's new for you, and I would be excited to take you to that next level and making it work and making it a positive situation and staying with it and making it successful. It would be my ultimate goal to make it successful for you and ultimately for me. I would like to make this my home.
Thank you.
How long do you see yourself in this township manager's position, should you be offered the position?
I see it as long as you would have me. I have no I have no plans unless my health were to fail or you would not want me in this position. I would love to stay. I love to stay working. I look at people that retire and die, and I'm not one of those people that want to retire. I love my job. If I don't stay, if I'm not able to come and help you achieve your goals, which would be my goals, I am going to stay working at hopefully as long as I can at Cooper Township.
What would you define success for you in this role after 5 to 10 years?
That I guess I would have to define it. What we would have to define your goals would be my goals. I don't know what your goals are. I would have to decide what, I would have to get to know what your goals are. I really don't know what your goals are at this time. I think we would have to work out that as a team. And goals would have to be analyzed. We would have to figure out what those steps would be to achieve those goals, and how we'd meet those goals. And right now, I'm a little bit green on what your goals would be, but I would need to find out what that is and how we would achieve those.
You have a lot of experience as the supervisor of a township. The township manager position is new to this township. Can you talk about your understanding of a township manager, and what do you envision your role with the township board and the supervisor to be?
I feel that it's well working with the board. I work for the board, and you work for the people in the township, and I would be working directly with and for the board. And I would answer to you, and you have to answer to the people in the township. And I have to make sure that you can answer positively to those people that you are in true.
Can you describe some strategies for how you will work with our community partners to advance the interests of the township?
I would need to first get to meet people. I would first have to figure out what the demography of the township is, what the business climate is, what our weaknesses and our strengths are in our township, what would need work, what our strengths are and what our weaknesses are, and figure out a SWOT analysis of what we needed to do to where the work is needed and where the strengths are, and how we can bring those together.
As the manager, you are going to be equally serving the full Board of Trustees.
Absolutely.
How will you ensure that all board members are equally informed, communicated with, and served?
I think we have an email system that has to be equally, everybody is treated the same. You have a 7-member board, and everybody's vote is equally the same, whether it's a trustee or whether it's a clerk, treasurer, or supervisor. Nobody's vote is any more weighted than anybody else, and everybody is equally as important and has to be communicated with equally as much. Whether it be a voice, whether it be an email, whether it be any type of communication, it has to be equally the same.
Okay?
If there is a division among trustees, elected officials, or employees, how would you handle differing views among these individuals serving in different levels of government?
In different levels of government, would you explain a little further into that?
Well, the township, the supervisor, the clerk, and the treasurer are all here working day by day, and the trustees sit on this board. Mm-hmm. And then you have the employees. They all have a differing opinion. How do you handle all that?
I get that. So you're talking about basically within the township. Okay.
Yes.
Now thinking if you're going county and township or city.
No,
okay.
just this county.
Just within the township. That's a tough one because I face that on a daily basis sometimes too with staff, and sometimes it's very tough because I have an assessor that likes to also work the ordinance enforcement office every once in a while and steps out of bounds a little bit, and we have to have that conversation. And I think it becomes a staff meeting and a group session to where we all have to communicate at once and together and have that communication together. And sometimes it has to be a one-on-one, or it has to be two-on-one. Sometimes it's people are very passionate about what they do, and they care a lot about what's going on. And I think sometimes it takes more than one to talk with an individual. And I guess it really depends on what the issue would be, but sometimes it takes more than one to address an issue. And I know I'm not probably hitting that right on the head, but I think it sometimes takes a discussion amongst more than one individual before you can nail it down on the head. If it's a singular individual with one particular person, then I think it has to be, I'm always comfortable with more than one-on-one. So, and if it's a group issue, I think it has to be discussed as a group.
How do you plan to build relationships within the community with other municipalities and stakeholders to form a network that will allow Garfield to make important connections?
Well, I would like to plan some type of as we did in Kalamazoo, we get together with supervisors. I don't know at this point in time how many Grand Traverse townships have managers at this point, but I would try and put together a supervisors group that, if there isn't already, and include the managers, because in Kalamazoo, our managers get together with our supervisors and we all connect. And I would like to do that at least on a monthly basis. And we also invite our county administrator comes to that meeting. We get together, we usually have a topic that we discuss, and then we go amongst each other at the end. It usually lasts an hour, maybe two, and then sometimes we grab a lunch afterwards, and we discuss what's going on in each municipality, and sometimes we can solve an issue just by somebody else has had that issue not long ago. And if you can sit around a table together and even break bread, sometimes you build those relationships by being together and learning to get to know one another. And I would really like to, I think that would be very important to start those relationships. And I know you mentioned earlier, I would like to get involved in whatever organizations there are, whether it be Rotary and any other organizations that are important to this community, whether it be the Lions Club, other organizations that I would get to know. And I'm sure Chuck or any one of you can tell me what those would be that you would like me involved in.
In an environment where it's so challenging to hire and onboard new employees,
what we are looking for, and whether we're looking for a temporary or we're looking for somebody that we'd actually like to bring on full-time, which is, we've gone through actually 3 people. The third person that we have, we are going to bring on full-time and keep, and the first 2 were okay, but the third one that we have has just turned out to be fantastic, and she happened to be a office personnel that used to work for one of the local communities in one of the smaller cities in our area, and she's turned out to be just fantastic. And we're going to be hiring her, and her work ethic is fantastic, and she comes in, she's ready to work. She's in the office 10 minutes ahead of time and at her computer desk ready to work, and she works right up till the time to leave, and she's rewarded for that. And you reward people that have good work ethic, and it's worked out fine. And sometimes if you advertise, you may get somebody good, and you reward people for good work. And
What date can you start if offered this position?
That is a very good question. As you know, I am on the ballot for November, because at the time this came out, I was on the ballot in August, and I have won the primary. And right now, I have a mailer that is not at the print. It's at the print shop, but I have not given the go-ahead. I would have to go back and surrender and endorse my competitor, and I would have to at least give some time. It wouldn't be long, but I would say probably mid to the end of October.
Okay.
And that's negotiable, but I also would have to find some place. I'm not driving back and forth to Kalamazoo every day. I would have to find some type of at least temporary residence until we could find something more permanent. And one of the questions I do have, and I wanted to let you folks know, if you are interested in me, and I'm very interested in coming to help you through this situation, getting you into a manager's position and working through this and making it a success. I have insurance, full health insurance through my wife. I do not need health insurance, and we do. And I also wanted to know, is it going to be a requirement to be a resident of Garfield Township? I would like to be a resident of Garfield Township, but I wanted to know, I don't know if what your thoughts are on that. And I've been actually looking at residences for sale and looking at comparable to what I have to what's for sale. It is a little higher market up here. So,
As an elected official, you would have to live in.
I understand that, right?
As an employee, you don't.
Okay, and I figured that, but I didn't know what your thoughts were. And serving a community, I would also like to try and do my best to also live in the community I serve. That's just, I've always been that way. So.
Okay.
Yeah, just chat with him a little bit.
Sure.
So your wife works, is she bringing her job with her?
No, my wife is a front desk support at Bronson Hospital, and she is very eager to retire, and she has worked there almost 8 years. She said she would give them 10. She is very willing to retire. I think what she would probably do is finish out probably 6 months and there, and then would retire. And yeah, she's been there 7 years, and she's very not happy with the administration at Bronson. She's hiring and training 21-year-olds making $3 an hour more than what she is making, and she's very upset. And of course, and that's neither here nor there, but you know, she had wrote a letter to the administration and to her manager, and they gave her a $500 stipend one time a year ago and said, here you go, and then nothing happened. And so she's not married to Bronson Hospital at all, so it's one of those things to where, yeah, so we're excited to have her gone from there.
Some more questions down there, sir.
Steve?
So in the question Molly asked you, the last part of it said, how do you retain and value quality staff members? You responded with reward good work. How do you reward good work?
I think that you reward good work in not only telling them that they're doing a good job, but I think that when you bring in an employee and as they're new, that if you decide to keep them, that you also, you know, give them some type of a raise as well. I mean, to keep them. I mean, if you start them in at an entry level position and they are they're doing well, then show them on a paycheck. I mean, it doesn't have to be hundreds of dollars, but I mean, it does have to be something that's what they're looking for. They're trying to do a good job to feed their families and to be rewarded with a good paycheck. Yes.
Well, so the board here would have to approve that pay raise.
Absolutely.
That's how okay. I have another question is, so once your wife retires, will you need insurance at that time?
No. She retired from, she worked 20 years as a parapro at Parchment Schools. She retired from the school district, and she has the Mesa insurance for both of us for life. And if she passes before me, then I get it. I have full health insurance for life through her retirement for the schools.
Okay.
That's very nice these days.
Yeah,
Oh
it
my
is.
gosh, yes. And I think what little retirement she got, because she was a parapro, not a teacher, she taught Title I reading to kindergarten through 5th grade. And basically what her retirement does is pay for her health insurance, which is fantastic. I mean, you know, and she's worked for Bronson for about 8 years now, so.
Any other follow-up questions from the board?
We don't have any other township managers in any of the,
Correct.
okay.
Not in,
Not in our, this is all new. We don't have any in Grand Traverse
Just the
County.
city.
In Grand Traverse County. I mean, you know, this is new for you, and it's going to be new for me. But I really feel that one of the things that really excites me is when I came in here is to see the camaraderie and the compassion and the passion actually that you all have for each other. This is something that in the state, with me being on the MTA board and even seeing in Kalamazoo, it's deteriorating, and it's beautiful to see this up here. I'm excited about that in itself. It really is beautiful. And to see your receptionist at the front desk, to see a smile on your face when somebody walks in that they don't know, especially the first time I walked in. I mean, and the people here that were here the first day that I talked to, and John Syke, and some of the people that I know, and is it Sandy DeHaan? Amy DeHaan. You know, I knew her from way back when I first started. She worked at Comstock, and to see those people and smiling faces, this is beautiful. So
We had a good township, that's for sure.
yeah, and you know, I'm very excited to see if this would work out, and to work with you. And am I going to be able to hit the ground running? I'm going to be hitting the ground stumbling a little bit because I got to learn, and I want to learn all of you, and I want to learn your township. I want to learn your people, and I'm excited. So
We're all gonna stumble because it's a new position.
well, it is, and I want you to understand that. But I want to learn with you, and I want to grow with you, and if you choose me, let's do it, and let's do it and do it right.
Oh,
Yes.
You asked about townships around here that had managers, and Denise answered for you. Have you worked with townships that have had managers?
Yes, Comstock, Texas Township, Kalamazoo Township. Kalamazoo Township was not a good fit. They had a manager that actually took him forever to fire. He was a very bad fit. He was, he would go in when they were going into a closed session, and he would tape the tape recorder underneath the table and tape the meetings.
okay.
Yeah, so
That's not
I
a good
guarantee
thing.
you won't see that. But yeah, it was a very bad. He fired 2 fire chiefs and a fire chief and a battalion chief, and that just created a lot of angst. Trust me, and I've been in the fire service since '86, so yeah, it just wasn't a good situation. But yeah, but other than that, no. But Comstock Township, he was actually the supervisor for a term for Pine Grove Township, which is in Van Buren County, a very small township. And he did both for a while, and then he this past 4-year term he was not, and he did Comstock Township. And then Julie Vanderweer was a detective with the city of Kalamazoo, retired, and then she did Texas Township, was about the size of a township here. And and really, it was kind of funny because I really didn't understand why you would have a manager, but when I read why you went to a manager, I fully understand it now, because you don't want somebody to come in a township such as yours that is growing and have somebody come in with an axe to grind that gets some undercut and pick the feet up from underneath you by an election. So
Absolutely.
it's great, and I'm glad, Chuck, you're staying on as a trustee, and it's just,
Hopefully, we all are.
well, hopefully, yeah.
We have to be elected first.
Well, you know, how much opposition do you all have, or do you?
Well, there's 6 running for 4 positions.
Okay. Okay.
4 Republican, 2 Democrat.
Are you pretty much Republican here? Okay.
Can we say that?
Can we say that?
I know, and the person that was running against me has always been a Republican, and he was actually appointed. I actually, when we had an opening, I was trying to be appointed, and then he got appointed, and then I ran in 2001 as supervisor, and then he was already a trustee. Then he lost as a trustee 1 term, and then I was supervisor from 2000 till now. And he came to me in February and said, "I thought you were going to retire." And I said, "No, I never said I was going to retire." He says, "Well, I want to run for supervisor." And I said, "Well, run." I said, "We've got nothing against." I said, "Run if you want." And I thought he was kidding. Well, then he decided to run as a Democrat because he wanted to run against me in November. I'm going, really? And then I got Amy Sell, and I thought, why not? Let's throw this in and see what it was. And then I got to reading more about Garfield Township, and I got really excited about it. Well, here we are today, so I'm very excited about this. So, and I wouldn't have come up twice, so very enthused. So I thank you for the opportunity, and look forward, hopefully, to hear from you again.
Do you have any other questions for us?
Man, I don't at this point, but if I think of something, one thing I never did get, I think, was either your card or one of you guys, I've got you online. I've got all your contact information online and stuff, so.
And my cards are at the front desk.
Yep, absolutely, and if you've got anything for me, and then, of course, I went home and I promptly destroyed my phone in the recliner chair the next day, and I went to watch the debate the next day, and I got up and my recliner chair went down and went up like this, and I said, why is it doing that? So I put it up and I forced it down, and my phone was in the mechanical part of it.
Smash.
Yeah, so I thought, just my luck, but first COVID, then that. I'm thinking. But no, I can't think of anything right now, and if you guys think of anything else, you got my cell phone number, please call me. And I was just telling the young lady back here, when I leave here, I'm headed to Lansing. I've got one of my last board meetings, active board meetings for MTA tomorrow, so I'm going to Lansing tonight, and then I'll be home tomorrow, and just back in the office on Monday, so.
Say hello to Marv.
Huh?
Say hello to Marv.
I will do that.
The Harrison Township Supervisor is a good friend of mine.
Which
Ken.
one? Okay.
Yeah, he's on your board now.
Oh, yeah, yep. Yeah, Marv, actually, this has been very private around. Neil, obviously, was one of my references, and I was in charge of the committee that hired Neil, and it was probably the most nerve-wracking committee that I've ever chaired, because Larry Merrill for years had been tremendous, and how do you don't fill those shoes, you just try and do the best you can, and I think we hit it out of the park with Neil. He's really a super leader, and everybody in the office loves him, and come to find out afterwards, Larry was like a Hitler in the office, and I never knew that.
Find out things later.
Oh yeah, you find out things later, and I'll say this because it's gone and over with, but when I was incoming president, Larry always had tickets to like the Detroit Grand Prix, and he took me to the Grand Prix, and he picked me up at the MTA office, and we're headed towards Detroit, and it was kind of quiet, and he looked over at me, and he says, "You picked the wrong damn person." And I said, "Larry," I said, "if this is the way this is going to be, turn the car around. I don't want to go." And he says, "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that." I shouldn't have done that. And I thought, oh my gosh, and come to find out there was somebody that he recommended that it just didn't work out, and we were several on the committee, and that person made the last three but didn't end up getting the. Neil read almost 4 years of the Township Focus magazine, because he was on the planning commission. He went to his supervisor that he was on the planning commission for, read every one of them, and knew, and he gave an elevator speech of MTA that you could have just just threw us for everything, but anyway. But it's been a great ride. I love what I do, and I'm going to continue to love what I do, whether it's here or whether it's at Cooper. So appreciate your time and your interest in me, and hope to hear from you.
Great.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks
Thank
for coming
you,
up.
Jeff.
We appreciate
Absolutely.
it.
Thank you all.
Safe travels to
Appreciate you.
Lansing.
You
Yep.
betcha. I will.
It'll be a nice drive.
Yes, it will. Appreciate you.
Yep.
Well, I believe we have a half-hour break.
Okay.
Okay.
The second interview. Mr. Barshef,
Good afternoon.
can you explain why you feel that you are the ideal candidate for this position?
I feel like I am the ideal candidate for this position for many reasons. If you look at my career, first of all, I grew up in the township, moved here when I was 11, and spent my whole life living in different residences within the township, and I understand the values, the culture, and the identity because I've lived here, most of my adult life. I have been in law enforcement for 28 years, and during my career, I've developed the skills and abilities that I feel would make me very successful in the role of the manager. I've built partnerships and relationships. Actually, I've had relationships, but I've built partnerships with many community members, members of different municipalities, county departments, and in the manager role, I'll have regular contact with those individuals. So I don't have to spend the time to build them, they're already existing. When I look at my career path, I chose public service because it was like a calling. I have a desire to help people, that's my nature. And the township position is very much the same. Although you work at the discretion of the board and for the board is elected and they work for the taxpayer, the citizens. So I feel like with that regard, I'm still working for the community and it's a public service position. My law enforcement career was very lengthy, and I chose to join the township as a trustee to gain knowledge and experience that would help me better understand the role of local government and how it works. Without that and without working with all of you as regularly as I do, I would be at a disadvantage. So I feel like all the positions that I put myself in to learn and grow have developed me to be a successful manager. Also, that's a position to affect change in a community, positive change, and to continue to do the work of the board in the community just from a different perspective from the board or what a supervisor would do. I also feel that I have an incredible work ethic. Sometimes I don't know when to stop, and I overwork myself. And I feel that somebody in a management position, administrator, you got to be one of the hardest working people. And so whether it's a curse or a good thing, I have a work ethic that's beyond most people, and it's just by nature. Also, I'm very young and I'm very motivated. So I look at this as an opportunity for a second career. My law enforcement career is winding down, and I want to continue to serve the public. So this is an opportunity to continue in a public service role, doing the things that I've done for the last, in the sheriff department, probably 20 years as a manager, but to continue it in a different venue and in a little bit different role, but to continue to still serve the public.
Thank you.
Could you please describe your management style?
So as I mentioned during the last interview, it's precipitative. So I always elicit feedback from my employees because in the end, I want them to have input and buy-in when we ever make operational changes. That process can be a little bit slower than just making a decision and moving forward. But I have felt in my management is that that's the best style. Now, I spoke about autocratic. Those are perfect in the military. When you need to bark orders, you need people to do things now, and those people don't get their feelings hurt, right? But I feel like the precipitative is the best style. And then, there are times where that's not going to work, and you have to just make decisions and say, this is what you're going to do. I've done it both, and I found that I'm effective in carrying out both styles when they need to be.
Currently, you are close to staff at Garfield, having been on the board. With this being a new position for the township, can you describe what you envision your role to be in relationship to the staff?
So as I said earlier, I work for the board, so I'm your employee. And I feel like I will be here as long as you want me to be here, and I'm supporting you in the ways that need to be supported, and in providing you with the resources that you need to make you successful. You know, I feel like I'm in a support role. I'm no longer a co-equal trustee, an elected official, and I serve at your discretion, which I'm fine with that role. I think I'm on my 4th sheriff. Each sheriff had different priorities and goals and visions, and it was my job to carry them out to the best of my ability. And I have no problem with that. And I see that this role as being very similar.
How would you handle an employee that is not performing their duties and maybe they're causing issues with fellow employees?
What I've learned is that employees need to be given clear expectations. They need to understand them. They need to have a chance to ask questions for clarity if that needs to be. And you have to hold them accountable. So here's your role, here's what I need you to do. And if you don't do it, I usually would have a conversation with them to get them on track. And then if they don't, then in my role at the Sheriff Department, we follow progressive discipline, which is that there's chalk talk, there's counseling memos, there's reprimands and suspensions and terminations. So I feel like I would follow that same model. If I was presented with a problem here, I feel like you have to talk to them first to let them know there is a problem, how they can correct it, and what you expect of them, and then move forward. But then stay true to what you expect, right? If you tell somebody they need to do this, then you need to hold them accountable, because if you don't, it doesn't solve the problem. And if you don't deal with problems and let them fester, they will continue to erode relationships throughout the township and create problems with other employees. So it's important to take care of them right off the bat and deal with them effectively.
What would you define success for you in this role after 5 to 10 years?
I think success would be being in the position for 5 to 10 years, because it's a challenging position, and you have many different personalities on the board, and you got to do your best to make everybody happy, in essence. I think success for me would be all the board members, if they chose to continue their public service career, if in 5 to 10 years you were still here. Because that would say that I am effectively carrying out what's important to you, and that's resonating in the community. So that would be one measure. Also, we have all these goals that we want to accomplish in the township, whether it's at the parks level or in our strategic plan. And I think as long as we use that as our Bible, as our roadmap, and how we make decisions, I think we'd be on the right track. But it's when you veer off of that, then, it's easy when you have the public who's upset at you, but then you can say we have this thing called the master plan and our goals and our visions, and, as long as we stay true to that, then we're doing the right thing. And those citizens also had an opportunity to participate in the building of that master plan. So I always refer back to, you had an opportunity to build what the future looks like.
What do you envision your role with the township board and the supervisor to be?
So the supervisor has statutory duties. They chair the meetings. They are the chief assessor in the township unless it's delegated to an assessor. They're also responsible as the CEO for the budget of the township. So I also know that those roles can be delegated to me, and so whatever those roles might be, if the supervisor says, you are going to be in charge of the budget and that's my responsibility, then it is. I think it's important that the roles are clearly defined. I think that there would be a meeting between myself and the supervisor to discuss that, so that way there is no ambiguity or confusion as to who should be doing what. And, you know, I think I said in the last interviews that, you know, the manager typically handles the day-to-day operation. They manage each department. They take care of personnel matters, fleet management, budget, HR. So I think it would be very important, if I were selected for this position, to sit down with the current supervisor and the future supervisor to see what that picture looks like. What's the role?
What skills can you bring to the table to help us develop the new township manager position?
I'm very organized, to a fault sometimes. I'm a planner. I would be sure to sit down and, you know, determine what, I mean, we have a job description already that was approved. So that's a start already. And those are, I mean, there's a lot there. But I think, I mean, what I would like to do is take those summaries or short descriptions and add more content to them so it's very clear how you're going to accomplish each of them. So I feel like you've already got a start, and that's really comprehensive. I don't know that there's much more work to do other than going through the job duties and just asking clarifying questions, so I know exactly what is expected.
Thank you.
Can you describe some strategies for how you will work with our community partners to advance the interests of this township?
Well, I'll give an example. Let's use Parks and Rec. It's, you know, obviously we have a committee to deal with matters relating to that. And I think it's important to have relationships and the partnerships so there's trust when working with these individuals. And I have found that when you have that, people are more willing to help you, and you reach common ground on things that might be decisive. And I think it's about building that relationship, because you're able to accomplish so much more than having a decisive relationship or antagonistic. I can't think of the right word. But I feel like as long as you can establish that, you're able to work with other partners and fulfill the things that you need to. And just for parks, you know, you could potentially partner, what we do with the city and stuff like that, for joint rec. They'd be more apt to put funds and collaborate on a project with you if it's somebody that they respect than somebody who they do not. So I think it all starts with the relationships, and I think you can accomplish a lot more that way.
As a manager, you are going to be equally serving the full Board of Trustees. How will you ensure all board members are equally informed, communicated with, and served?
If selected in this role, I would sit down with every board member to have conversation on what their expectations are of me and what is important for them. I feel like my communication skills are very, very good. And also using different methods of communication, whether I send emails, text messages, which we do, or make time for conversations. In that level of communication would be the same for everybody. And I would make myself available when it was needed and necessary. So I feel like just having the relationship and being able to be available to answer questions and communicate whenever it's needed is something that I would do.
If there is a division among trustees, elected officials, or employees, how would you handle differing views among these individuals who are be serving at different levels of government?
There's always seems to be differences. And what I have found to be a successful way of handling that is explaining to people that their point of view is important and is valued, but I also like to explain that there's the views, and then you know, when there is distension between individuals, to point out all the facts and provide them with all the information. And that way, sometimes you can convince somebody to go a different direction as long as they have the information and the facts. And it's all about how you approach it. I can remember in East Bay Township as a community police officer, we had this neighborhood dispute that I inherited that went on for like 10 years. And it was constant drawing resources to handle it and complaints and stuff. So the way I felt it would be best to solve it is to pull the families into the East Bay Hall one night and sit down and just talk out our differences, you know, as human beings and face to face. And that was, and acting kind of like the mediator. And they were able to explain their concerns both ways, understand why each person felt the way that they did. And in the end, we had common ground and an understanding that they could live together without future problems from happening. So I think having these conversations and making people feel heard, and I think it works out.
How do you plan to build relationships within the community with other municipalities and stakeholders to form a network that will allow Garfield Township to make important connections?
So I think it's important to be at meetings, different community events. People need to get to know you and understand who you are and what you're made of. They can build trust. You can earn their respect and you can build trust. And I think it's just being around and being accessible. And if you're a hermit and they don't know who you are, then I think you're going to have an uphill battle in getting things done. So you just have to be present.
In the environment where it is so challenging to hire and onboard new employees, how do you retain and value quality staff members?
So this township does a great job. When I look at the challenges I have in my current role, we have great benefits. We pay our employees very well. We foster a culture here that everybody wants to work at. It's like a family. Who wouldn't want to work here? We're fair with employees. We treat them with respect. We handle issues that come up and don't allow things to fester to create tension. It's something that I haven't observed myself in my current role, but in my role at the Sheriff Department, I think it's important to accommodate people or say good job when things are being done well. Because people like to hear that. You know, I've learned it's the little small things that matter. So when you foster an environment like that, you don't lose people. They want to work here, and that benefits the community because you have experience working for them. And if you had constant turnover like I do in my profession, you're constantly training people, and I think we'd rather have a veteran staff that's well educated and experienced.
If you are chosen.
And if you had to do recruiting, then obviously you could do it through the means that we have in the past, Indeed, ZipRecruiter, online stuff, going to community events. I kind of envision someday, I did this down in Fife Lake when I was in charge of the CPO program, Community Safety Day. So we got all of the public safety entities together, all of the business entities into one area, and basically was a community day. So I feel like that's another way that you can recruit people if you need to.
If you are chosen for this position, what date can you start?
Because I care so much about a successful transition at the Sheriff's Office, and I want to leave them in a good position, I've thought about this. I feel 4 weeks would probably be good for me to learn the manager position if I were to be picked. I wouldn't want to sell myself short and transition the Sheriff Department to the best extent and sell myself short and only work with staff here for a week. Granted, you're all in the community, you're easily reachable, and I have your contact information. I just don't want to sell myself short. But I feel like a 3 to 4 week window of learning, job shadowing, learning the role would be best. And it would allow me, if you selected the person fairly soon, it would allow me enough time to, do the work that I need to do to hand it off to the next person at the jail. So that way there's a good transition.
So, can I expound upon that? I guess I'm a little confused here. So when could you start here?
So when is it, September 19th?
2 months and 1 day.
You know, I would say like mid-October.
Okay, thank you. That,
I mean, I know the sheriff would want me around till forever. But I feel mid-October would give me time to work really hard to continue to do the things that I need to wrap up, and then give myself enough time to work with staff and learn my role here before I would be on my own. So that's important.
Any clarifications? Steve?
Just a couple, and one's more of a comment, Chris, than anything, but you had mentioned under number 2, the question Laney asked, please describe your management style. You said feedback from employees. Is that all employees that you work with, or just ranking officers?
All of them.
All of them?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Because they all have different perspectives, they offer different ideas and thoughts, and a lot of times, like, it's the deputies who do the work, and it's the supervisors who supervise them. So often, I will reach out to the sergeant and say, we'd have touch-base meetings, we'd say, this is something that we'd like to accomplish or improve. What are your thoughts on being able to do that? Now, I always have in my mind what it would be, and I would say, go talk to your officers. And they would elicit feedback, then we'd come back on another touch-base meeting, we'd have a conversation. Here's what we'd like to do. Okay, let's put it in writing so it's very clear, and let's implement it.
And when you talk to the lower ranking deputies or officers, did you pretty much let them know, be open with me, don't worry about your sergeant or lieutenant, answer or tell me what's going on?
So a lot of times when we're doing operational things like that, I usually, rank is important to me and chain of command, so I'll do it through the sergeants. But and I'll have them work with the deputies, but I've always got an open door policy, and I always go to other shifts and talk to the staff, and I'm always available. So they can come talk to me if they need to be, if they want to. I have found that with newer officers, they're not so apt to come forward because they're a little green, and I don't know if captain's intimidating, I don't feel like I am, but that's just the nature of how things work. The people who are have been there longer, more willing to come talk. So I've made it a point to visit them in shifts and be accessible. Also, too, I've learned this is, I communicate to my sergeants and I try to push information to the deputies through them. And that always is not successful. And I've learned where things have kind of come up short. I've even had a sergeant, a deputy became a sergeant, said, I love the times when you just sent out an email to all the officers because they felt like the sergeants weren't informing them. So they were being informed through communication that way. It's kind of like a double-edged sword because I really feel like stuff should go through the sergeants. So I ended up having to pick and choose. What would I send out as a general email and what would I go through the sergeants, depending on the topic and the priority.
Okay. And then one just simple one. My thought came from number 5 question, which was the 5 to 10 year plan, and you responded in a way that made me think of this. And then when we got to number 9, where it talked about equally serving all the board members, just true or false, I wrote down, do you believe gathering information and presenting it to the board in a non-biased opinion to be true?
So
you would gather and go out and search an issue that the board tells you about. Would you come back and present that to the board and its factual members without a biased opinion of what you think?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. And if the board wanted my opinion, I could certainly offer that, but the board makes the decision. My job is the fact data collector, is the way I look at it. So if there is a matter that comes to you, well, let's use a liquor license, right? So we have a policy that governs how that works with the quota licenses. So you'd be educated on that. You would be told, here's the process, and so you'd make an educated decision. I would. Here you go. You decide. And if it's something that you don't have enough information to make your decision, guess what? I'll go back and figure out a little bit more, and we can always kick a meeting down the road. And here's the new information. Hopefully, you can make a decision. Yeah, my job isn't to sway the trustees. It's to provide the information so you can make an informed decision.
And I'm sure if one of the trustees asked you, how do you feel about this, in your process of gathering the information, you would form an opinion. You almost can't not by who you talked with, and the liquor thing is a good one. You'd be like, I really think these guys have their act together versus these guys are kind of I'm not sure, but here's the facts.
I think as I gain more information, I'm able to make a decision. I always feel like, you know, there's information out there that may exist, and if you make this, and this can be good and bad. There may be information out there that I really wish I would have had at the time I made the decision. So I do my darndest to collect as much as I can. And if that happens, it's like, oh, well, that wasn't maybe there at the time, or I didn't know it existed. So I think, you know, my detective sergeant days is just the way I'm wired. I flip every stone over. I try to get as much information as I can when making decisions so they're well educated. And it helps you to not regret it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions?
Does he have any questions for us?
That was exactly what I was going to say.
I do this time. You know, I feel like the majority of the questions would come if I were to be selected, so I don't want to waste your time here. But I'm just curious, if I were to be selected, what is one thing that's important to you that you would want me to do for you?
Take the job.
If we ask you. Yeah.
If we ask you.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Can I answer that?
I think everybody can.
I don't have a problem with anything that you do, because I know you personally, and I know your job and what you did as a detective sergeant. You do not leave any stone unturned. So I know that if you were selected for this position and you came back to us for something that we had asked for, you're going to do your damnedest to make sure that all the answers are there. And that's what I appreciate about you.
Thank you.
Holly?
Yeah, I want to make sure that our understanding is the same on the manager's position. The way that I envision it is you have the board directs the manager directs the department heads, and I'm not talking about the electeds, they have their own thing here, but, and then the employees are under that. And other people that have interviewed have kind of talked about, oh, it's a team thing and all that kind of stuff. But I'm very much concerned that we can maintain these levels. It's not.
Chain of command.
I mean, that's important for the township to stay that way, I think. It's not a family, really. It's a business.
Yep.
So I don't know, you want to try to respond to that? I don't know whether you feel different or.
No, I agree. The organizational structure is important to maintain, and I do that through my sergeants, my deputies, and I keep those lines clear. When I say a family, it's a fun place to work, right? It's not, people come here, they're not pulling in the driveway and be like, oh, crap, another day at the township. You know, they truly enjoy being here and they like coming to work. That's what I mean about the family part of it. You know, I feel like there has to be, each department's different and their roles are different and they're doing it due to certain statutes. You know, I think my job as a manager is for you to know, for instance, that we're following the Michigan building code, right? That our building official and our inspector are doing that. So my job as a manager is to, you know, and this is how I work, is to know the code. I will learn this, even though it's not my job. It's my job to have somebody else do it. You know, I hire and pay somebody else to do that. But because of the way I'm wired, I will get to know this stuff. And I feel like, how can I effectively manage that without knowing more about it? So, you know, for assessing, are we following the act like we're supposed to? You know, are there a lot of people who are contesting the assessments? You know, and if we're having that all the time, okay, what are we doing wrong? You know, what is our assessor missing? Are we not bringing people in enough for them to provide documents and, you know, educate our staff as to information they may have that might be useful? So there's going to be clear lines, I feel like, in the structure of the sheriff's office and the organization I worked for 28 years. That's very simple for me to do. And I also work with vendors, I've got a food vendor, that's different than my employee. Sometimes you run into employee issues with that, but you have to work with the manager of that company to deal with it. I can't fire them, but I can go say, this isn't working out, and that's happened before. So I think my position for, in management for 20 roughly years has really allowed me to effectively manage the way that I think that you want it to be.
Steve?
So good luck learning the building codes, because it's 500 and some pages, and I've been a builder for 30 years, and they change. I guess my comment, Chris, would be just don't take the engineer out of yourself, and don't be so detailed into having to learn all their jobs. I think what you have to do is to learn, if you're selected, what their job is. Carl, for instance, in the building codes, if there's an issue there, I guarantee you're going to hear it from the builder or the owner of that project. They're going to call either the supervisor, Joe, who's a shoo-in, or the manager, and they're going to complain. And then at that point, you can go, and Carl will back it up with the evidence of that code, right? So kind of learn your positions. I would suggest be aware of what they do, trust that they do them well, because I think if they don't, you're going to feel it, hear it, know it, and then you dig into, why am I feeling this, hearing this, knowing this, and how do we fix this? That's kind of the attitude I think I would go at that to see, because I guarantee you're never going to learn the building code, so
Yeah.
you need to retake that back in. You should be aware of there's codes, which you are, and let Carl and them do that, because there is so many. But I guarantee the issues will arise from unhappy people or conversations that you hear, and then you can divulge into, why am I hearing this? Does that make sense?
Yep, it does. Thank you.
Yeah.
Chloe, what is important to you for Christine?
To me, like, the biggest, most important part of this manager position is to gather information, to share information. I want the manager to be the go-to for any of the trustees, to be able to go ask questions to. Me and Lainey and I work full-time here. We are very busy. We don't have a lot of time to look into things. So, you're going to have the time and the staff and the resources to gather good information, because to me, we as a board need to make the best informed decisions, because we're representing the people, we're spending the people's money. So I feel like it's very valuable to have a manager who can spend that time giving us the information that we need to make good decisions, doing the research, giving us the history, because we don't always remember, and the trustees here have full-time jobs, or they have, they're busy. So having that refresher at the beginning of a new thing coming before the board, and having that information, I think is going to be really helpful to us. And just being that person that we can go to for information, I think that's going to be really helpful. Also, I feel like managing the staff's really important. It's good to have a good staff. They're the ones who are serving the community. So I feel like it is good to keep our staff feeling good to come to work. So the manager, to me, has to be able to manage people in a way that, keeps them in line, but also treats them with respect, values them as, human beings, and they have lives. And so that's really important to me too, because the community is going to get out what we put into our employees. Ultimately, if they're happy and they're working hard,
Right.
then that's going to reciprocate into the community too. So those two things.
Oh, well, ditto.
Yeah, what she said. Yeah.
Well, no, I did want to say that the gathering information and being able to talk to the board members, where we can only talk to one or two people, and for you to have the information there, absolutely not share what each one of us are saying, but give us all the right information so that we are able to make those decisions and be supportive of our staff.
Yep.
Because they are good staff we have right now.
Can I say one more thing?
Sure.
That's the thing that I would like about the manager position, because we can go to you
That
individually.
is unique, yes.
And I can't, if I go to one person here or two people, wait a minute, we're starting a quorum now. So it's like, okay, Chris, this is my dilemma. Can you help me with this? And that would be very, very helpful for us as trustees.
And for me, it'd be yourself. I mean, I've worked with you, I'm aware of your integrity, which I appreciate. I'm aware of the way you communicate. I think the one caveat I would offer would be to realize that in your position, overworking doesn't necessarily produce more results. Taking some time off to relax.
Oh, he
and
gets
then
vacations?
Come back with a fresh mind is very valuable.
I didn't know you got vacations.
4-day work week.
I'm sorry, we're just teasing you.
My wife and I just talked about that, actually.
She needs to take them too.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, no other questions for us?
No, I just, if I can say a few more words just to wrap up and.
Sure.
Okay.
Please do.
So I appreciate the detailedness of this process and the amount of work that everybody put into this, as a candidate and a citizen. The citizens should know that you took this very serious, and then you have, a decision to make, and you did your homework. So whatever the decision is, it's well-informed. So I appreciate the effort that's been put into it. I don't know everything. I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes. In my career, I learned from the mistakes and move forward. I own up to my mistakes. And I also don't know everything, but I seek to find out everything. And in my time at the township and also in my career, I try to soak up as much information as I can. And as I get older, my brain is not as, susceptible or accepting of information as I get older, but I try to. I try to educate myself and inform myself so that I can be more valuable the next day. I know my public service career has been in law enforcement and not at the township, but I want to give you a little example or insight into how I think. 28 years in law enforcement. I joined Louisiana State University. As you know, I'm an instructor. I teach around the country on my vacation, which I should probably change that. But it's fun. I'm able to educate law enforcement, citizens, everybody in the country. And I also get to learn about neat things that's going on as it relates to the township. I often thought about getting out of that for just health. But then I thought, boy, that network of people that I'll no longer have access to is so important. So creating the relationships and the partnerships is important to me, and that's an example of it. Also, I had a goal to be in this position at the end of my law enforcement career. So that's when I chose to become an elected official, not for the title, not for an ego, but to serve the community and learn. And also, as you've learned too, as I've worked with you for 4 years, you know about me, you know about my family, you know about what I stand for, you know about my character, my integrity. So had I not put myself in that position, you guys would all know nothing about me. So, so that was planning on my part to put myself in a position that would allow me to be qualified to be the manager. And in the end too, I don't know everything, but I'd be willing to research it and figure it out. And as I said earlier, I'm 50. I have a lot more time to work in me, and I plan, if selected, to make this a career for as long as the board will keep me employed. I don't have any intentions of making this a short little stint or fun little end to my career. It's career number 2, and I'm career oriented. So. Thank you for listening to me and allowing me to interview again. And like I said, for taking this process serious. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming back for the second interview.
Yes.
We appreciate it.
Thank you. That's all I have.
All right,
Okay, all set?
all set.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
I had, our first interviewee, I had a problem with them naming names and talking poorly about people that were in positions that we all knew the people from MTA, and they spoke poorly of them. And I think that in a management position, you shouldn't be airing those kind of opinions and publicly about people. It just really bothered me. I just wanted to put that out there.
I think very early in my career, one of the trustees told me that bad-mouthing your predecessors doesn't do you any good.
No.
That was you, Molly. So, and I have always kept that advice.
It wasn't a predecessor to him, though. It's MTA's person.
Yeah, but it just didn't sound good to me. It's just my opinion, I'm sorry. I just had a hard
No,
time hearing them.
I know what you're saying. I kind of agree.
That kind of bothered me, so.
Well, sure. This was enlightening. I'm glad we did the interviews again. I needed to have an opportunity myself to rule out one of the candidates. I think Chris did a great job interviewing. He answered a lot of questions for me. My issue with him has been, how close are you to the township, and can you make independent decisions? And he says he can. I believe him. So I'm fine with going in that direction.
Can I just make a motion?
Well,
Not yet.
perhaps,
Did I go home?
perhaps somebody else would like to speak.
I want to
first.
go home.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm sorry.
Chloe, did you?
Did she just say, can I make a motion?
To go home.
No, I didn't say that.
No, but did Denise say that? I missed it.
Oh, boy.
I'll make my point.
Okay.
Jeff has got the experience, and I appreciate the experience that he has. But knowing Chris as long as I've known him and worked with him for years, for 30-some years that I was doing it, there's nothing that I could ever ask that man that he wouldn't find out the answer for me. And that's what I appreciate him being that way, because of the fact that I could say, okay, I have, an example being I can't find a victim and I got someone coming out in control, I need your help. I mean, it might take him a day and a half, but he'd get that information for me. And those are the kind of things that I think that we need as a township manager. And again, and I agree with the question that Molly asked, as long as he knows that chain of command, it's us, that's him, and then it's the department heads. Not necessarily him having to, what do I want to say, manage the employees because they're managed by somebody else. Again, not in your departments, but, and I don't think he'll have a problem with that at all. And I think, being he's from here, and he's got a long time this is a second career for him. So, I was very satisfied with the answers to questions tonight.
Steve?
So I came into this with the opinion of we had to find somebody that had the experience, that had done this, that knew these routes, that knew all this stuff. I got to say, Jeff made a comment to the board about this board is kind of unique because it gets along and it thinks things through and it does things. And I just wanted to say, my term's coming short. I have enjoyed working with this board. We have crossed the T's and dotted the I's, and we may not have agreed on crossing the T, but it came out in the end and it worked well. But I think this board does get along well. With Chris, he was my least candidate for experience. But I truly feel that he 100% is going to learn the encyclopedia to find out what one word's term is. So I have changed my opinion. I feel he is in this for the longer haul, and he has a method about him that is calming. And I do appreciate the fact he may have an opinion of somebody but does not verbally put it out there. So for that reason, that's how I feel.
I just want to say thanks for the second interviews, because
Yeah, the
I think
second
the
interviews
Senate
were
changed
huge.
my mind completely.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why I asked for the second interviews, because there was questions that we did not have answered in the first. In this way, I got my answers, and I feel good about the decision I'm about to make.
Okay. Chloe, did you have anything you wanted to say?
I have a lot because I'm not going to say it all though, but I feel like Chris is the best candidate for the position because I think you can learn whatever you need to learn, but you can't teach somebody how to be a good leader and how to be ethical and how to, have good work ethic. And Chris has all that, and I know he's willing to learn whatever he needs to learn to do the job. And I feel like he's very passionate, he's very motivated. Working with him, I think, would be very easy. He is respectful to all people. Like you said, he doesn't say bad things about people. He's not emotional, he's very logical. But I just think he's got good values, good integrity. I like that he's been a member of the community. He knows the community. I feel like that's important. He worked in law enforcement. So I don't think he had specifically local government experience, like a township, but he's worked in, like, kind of had adjacent experience, I would say. Like, he's managed people, he's dealt with laws, he's dealt with regulations, he's dealt with the public, So to me, he has experience that transfers over very easily to township government.
And the budget, too.
But true, yeah, he's managed a $7.5 million budget, and that's bigger than our budget. So I feel like he's very qualified, very professional, good at speaking, a good writer. He's going to do the research. So I'm very comfortable with Chris for many reasons, but I'll stop there.
Okay.
And not just because I personally like him. I need to say that. I really feel like I do like him. I feel like a lot of people like him, but I do honestly feel like he is the best choice for Garfield Township and for our residents. Not for me, but for the township.
Correct.
I just want to say that too.
I'm going to tell you, Steve, I was like you. I didn't think Chris was going to be my number one choice. I saw the experience of the other people that were there. I gotta be honest with you, I thought he answered the questions better than all of them. He took his time, he listened, and I liked his answers.
He
I liked
interviewed
what he
well.
had to say. I think, I like it that he's got a house here, he's ready to go. He's going to come in here, and he is part of our community. And I like his management style. I like that he listens to everyone and gets their buy-in. And I think that that'll be important to all of our employees, and I liked his style.
I think he would, in my opinion, the way he handles himself and the way he speaks, he's going to be a great representation for our township. Can I make a motion?
One more thing.
Back to that again.
You can't talk.
Of course I can. I just want to say that, for me, this is personal, because I really feel like we as a board have done a lot. We're in a better place, and I don't want to see it
Great.
go backwards, and I don't think that'll happen with Chris. I think he'll keep his foot on the gas, and he will do as the board instructs him to,
And he knows the hurdles that we've had over the past 4 years because of him being on this board.
Yep.
So that's important.
No, if you would like to make a
I would
motion.
like to make a motion that we offer the township manager position to Chris Barchef.
Support.
We have a motion to offer the position to Chris Barshep and support the
Discussion part.
next thing.
No, I just thought I thought of something because I can't put it in the motion. That's why I want to discuss it
Chuck
now.
was getting ready to ask, is there any further discussion?
Well, and I was going to say that perhaps part of this is that typically the consultant would begin the negotiation process. based upon?
That's what I was,
The board's action.
that's what I was gonna ask, because of the fact that, and I'm nothing against him, granted, I mean, he's gonna be wonderful, that we go on the lower end of the perspective as far as the salary goes, until we see as the board how things go. You know, I don't wanna start him at the top end of that salary. I
Well, and
want
that's typical, that pay is based upon,
the experience.
The experience.
Okay, that's the question I had.
Well, because it's such a new position, we're all gonna grow into it.
Right.
The people on the board are gonna grow into it, employees are gonna grow into it, everybody's gonna grow into it. And so I like the idea of, okay, well, let's see how things go for 6 months, and maybe we'll go, or maybe we'll give them a year, or whatever, and then increase, but not, because there is no manager experience there. I'm agreeing with Denise, it's gotta be,
yeah, at some point, we'll have to set up a policy on a review of the
yeah,
manager.
Right, exactly, exactly.
That would reflect in his,
right.
Right.
Salary, yeah.
Absolutely.
anything else for discussion? Okay. On the motion to hire, to offer the position to Chris and instruct our consultant to begin negotiations, all in favor say aye.
Would you like,
Aye.
aye, you don't think this needs a roll call
I
vote?
think roll call.
Let's do roll call.
Okay.
If you want it.
Just so we're-
Just do it
Sometimes if
because-
you say, all in favor say aye, and everybody says aye, and then you say, any opposed?
You hear crickets?
Okay.
She wants a roll call, though.
Go, yeah, she can have it.
Go ahead.
Schmuckel,
Yes.
Augustinelli.
Yes,
McCumber,
Yes.
Duel,
Yes,
McManus, yes, Corn.
Yes.
There you go.
and there would have been crickets.
That brings us back to public comment.
Does,
okay.
Come on up.
do you let Chris know or they let?
Yeah, have a
I can
seat.
speak without a mic, correct? I don't need to.
No,
Oh, they're
no, you've gotta
recording
speak
it,
it.
so you
Oh,
gotta,
you
just
don't need
stand
to-
near it, yeah.
Well,
There
you
you
can
go.
sit if you want, Judith.
There you go.
Sit right
Does
down.
that work okay?
Yep.
Are we good?
Yep.
Judith Danford, 1139 Northwest Silver Lake Road, Traverse City, Michigan, 49685. First of all, first and foremost, thank you. Thank you for your investment, your time, a second interview. I see, you know, I hear you about the budget, and I agree. Start out there, do a 6-month increase maybe, and work with that, because that's exactly what Chris was talking about. When people do a good job, you reward them, and that's one of your concerns. And you want to hold on to him, and you want him to learn. Molly, your comment about growing together, that's exactly right. And I've only been here for the 2 times, and I am watching you come together. I'm watching you grow into this position. And with Chris, I think all of your comments are on target, very accurate. And something else that I would like to add, that in local government, we oftentimes don't see a lot or think a lot about it. But at your last meeting, when Steve was talking about, you were talking about the infrastructure, et cetera, that led me to think about a major upheaval within the state, the counties, the townships, whatever it might be, and that preparedness, this goes beyond the fire issue, that preparedness, you know, we always think in government that somebody else is going to be there to help and take care of it, take care of those issues. We have this group that oversees that, and they'll be the prepared group. We all know realistically it comes back to the local community. It comes back to the township board. And with that thought, because that's where I leapt from what you were talking about, what better person to have in the township management position than someone who has been in law enforcement? What would he bring under adverse circumstances in the calm that you mentioned in his personality, the knowledge that he would bring to it, and on and on. So as a citizen, I recognize the township and the responsibility, but I moved also to a more global, a larger setting. And I think that Chris may provide something beyond what hopefully we will never have to put into use, but has that possibility. So I think your comments are right on. I think that it was good in having the other two gentlemen here and being able to get a sensing and feeling for some of the larger communities and what's going on and the personalities involved in that, and then their oversight. But obviously, I support you 100% as the only one in the public at the point in time for your decisions and your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment? All right,
So we have no meeting on Tuesday.
correct.
I would like to make a suggestion. If I get the budget done, I'm trying to work on it. I've just been real busy with elections. Maybe we could possibly have a budget meeting on Tuesday instead of the board meeting.
That's fine.
Yeah, budget session, yeah.
Budget session, I don't know if you want to do it at 4 or 5 or 6, whatever. I can,
Everybody have
my
their
best to
phone
get
with
it
them?
ready.
I'm not going to be here. I'm going to be at a conference,
Oh,
but that's okay. You guys
All
can
right,
start
no,
without me.
That's okay, that's all right. We
I
can do it
really
the-
don't mind if you
The
want
following week, I guess, if we
You
want
want to do the
to.
budget meeting at 5? Is that okay with everybody, or
4 or 5.
4 or 5?
You
or-
don't,
Four's
you
too
don't want to
early
wait till
for me.
Chloe's back, or?
I'm gonna be on the peninsula on a job site, so 5 is
5 works for
better.
you? It's fine.
Chloe won't be here, is that okay with everybody? You want to
Yeah,
get
I'm not
started
going to be
on
here
it?
next week. I'm
Just
going to a
started.
conference Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but
we're just
if you got-
starting.
She's on the
Right.
finance committee. She's
Right, we're just
Okay.
starting,
You
so.
you guys don't need me, I guess.
We do need
Well,
you, but,
do you wanna be here
No,
for
it's
it?
fine. The
I-
first meeting, we just go line by line, and
Right.
I'll be fine if you guys want to meet.
Okay,
all right.
so we want to do 5 o'clock? Okay,
Okay, so we're going to have a budget meeting, and we're going to not have a Garfield Township meeting. Okay, got it.
okay.
So I'm going to delete that event. This event only.
When do you want to meet and discuss the manager's offering? Or does Amy Cell do that through, we gotta talk about that. And he said 4 weeks out, so the more we wait, the farther it goes.
Well,
His, on his application, he indicated that he would be at the, he would work for the low end of the schedule. That's what I heard here.
right.
That was the instructions I was going to give to the consultant.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
Then are we just going to do the normal 2 weeks vacation to start out with, along with all those? Is that what you want to do? And
I feel like we should ask the consultant, maybe what's the standard for that kind of position, because
Should you, I know he's on the personnel committee, he can't, should you make a personnel committee and meeting and discuss that?
it needs to be a board action, but we'll ask the consultant what they would normally do, I think.
Well, I think of it, he's a new hire, okay? And so he should be probably the same as any other hire.
well, I think it's
you
it's
know,
not fair though
Hires
to,
under Chuck, if it's not under these two, and he's under the whole board. It's a little different.
But I mean, you're talking about vacations.
The details of his contract.
Yeah.
But I
he's-
think, see what I kind of agree with Chloe, see what Maui's, wrong one.
Amy
wrong
Sell.
one, Amy Cell says this type of position is normal, maybe.
right, because
Might
like,
have a better feel.
just because he's not experienced as a manager doesn't mean we should not pay him and give him the benefits that a manager deserves. That's my opinion. You know, we should still check what's the standard for managers in this area, because like, you know, the village manager, we all know at Sutton's Bay, oh, he's got fancy things in his contract, so if you want to keep the manager, you got to be competitive. So I feel like we should check out, you know, what other municipalities are doing for their managers as far as vacation time and pay. Well, we know the pay
We
range,
know the
we already
pay,
said.
yeah,
But yeah, like
vacation
things like
time.
vacation time, obviously, we already have a good benefit package that we
Right.
extend to
Right.
them, but
So I would ask her about the vacation time then.
There are other things that he may want us to consider, but at the end of the day, we want a contract, so.
Right.
Well, we do start out with so many personal days as well as
Vacation.
Right.
vacation. And it
Right.
adds up to a good 4 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
just
But then we're
starting
looking at
out.
October 8th as our next town board meeting,
Right.
which
By
would
then.
then 4 weeks put him into November 12th. 1, 2, 3, excuse me, November 5th.
Oh, we've already voted on.
already done. We've already done it. We've already voted
We're
on
gonna
it.
start negotiation. Are you saying that we're gonna approve that
We'd-
contract?
If we have what we consider to be a good agreement, we would probably call a special board meeting.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that was
yeah.
what I was getting at, is do you want to
Yeah.
wait for a normal board meeting or?
No, that's
I think a special board meeting,
Okay.
quicker, the better, the sooner the better.
that would be.
I had another question that I thought of today. If he takes on the manager position, he can't be a trustee anymore because that's a
Right.
conflict. So are we going to have a vacant trustee position until November 20th, and then
Have another
we would
vacant.
appoint, or how does that work? I think you touched on it, but.
Depends on who wins.
So it
Right.
depends on who wins. If Chris were to win his position, because he cannot be removed from the ballot at this point. He cannot, the ballots are at the printer. I'm supposed to have those ballots early next week, I'm supposed to have them in the building by the 26th by law. I don't know if I will. So the time has come for him to get off the ballot. If he were to win the election, he will not take his office, and this board has, we talked about it today at our clerk's meeting, either it's 30
I
days,
think it's 30, I looked it up, I think it's
30 days to
To
appoint
appoint.
a township trustee. This board appoints them. And then at the next general election, which will be 2026, they will have to run for office to complete the term.
Just like any other one if they.
Just
if
anybody else left the board, that's what would happen.
Right.
When Jean left, Chloe had to run
Yep,
at
Midterm.
midterm.
Yeah.
yep.
And so that's how that works.
But-
But this board appoints.
But if he doesn't win, then
But if he
it's
doesn't
just the
win,
top 4 vote getters.
We wait and then until after the November election.
We have to wait
and
till the
he
No-
If he wins,
If he wins,
then we have to appoint.
mhm,
If he does not win, then we have
we're all
whatever we
set.
have.
Yeah.
Right, because if he becomes the manager though, right now, and we have a vacancy right now, we don't have to do anything, that's okay?
It's 30 days. You don't have to
Okay.
appoint.
Okay.
Yeah, because I read up on that too, thinking of the same thing, and I said, I thought, they said that the board had 30 days to appoint,
30 days, yeah,
and then that person has to run in 2 years.
right. So,
So we might
We
need
shall
to
see
be
what we shall
appointing
see.
a trustee.
So that has to, that we have to basically wait until after the election, so.
Okay. It is 5:02. If there are no objections, we stand adjourned.
Adjourned.
Like it.